Yep. So, all right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Unfilter Sessions podcast. I've got a great guest here today, Brent, and he is a husband, father, Christian, and business owner. And much like myself, family time is very important for him. And I'm really excited to dive in and have the conversation with him about what makes him tick, why he does what he does today, and really just that North Star for him. Brent, tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get into it. Tell us about your business background, everything like that.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Philip. Looking forward to conversation. Yeah, as you said, husband, father, Christian, and business owner. Maybe not in that order exactly, but
Yeah, I do the same thing. I say father before husband. I'm like, should I? Should I?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm married to my wife, Kristen. We've been married for just over 5 years. We have four beautiful children, three girls and one little boy. A business owner since 2022,
Okay,
but I've
man, a
been
lot, a
in.
lot of changes in the last few years, man.
Oh my word, it's been
You just want to like make it all hard, like right away. You're
oh
like, let's just turn on the floodgates for everything.
absolutely, yeah. Who could have imagined what we would have gone through in the last 5 years? But it's been fun. It's been a journey. Yeah, been in residential construction now since 2018. So got to see some of the before COVID and the leading and coming out, and it's been fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me about that real quick. I'm really interested because obviously you were working for somebody, and then I'm guessing maybe you waited until after all the craziness kind of settled down, or what happened there for that transition.
Yeah. So the full transition, I was in commercial welding space for 5 to 7 years. Took a little break for a period of time in 2018. My father, who's been doing residential construction for decades, asked me, "Would you want to come work for me and learn the business?" And there was some things going on personally in my life that the change sounded really awesome. And so
Hmm.
I said, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's dive in and see where
So
this
you
could
said this
go."
was 2018, right? So this
Yeah.
would have then been before you were married.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So technically that wasn't the father-in-law then. So man, you really jumped in on that.
No, well, no, this was my father. My father
Oh, sorry,
asked
I
me.
I totally
Yes. Yeah.
misheard that.
No, you're good. And so it had been something we had talked about for a long
Hmm.
time about whether or not, you know, either my brother or I would continue in the business and see how it can go from there. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I jumped on it and made the switch over, and then just really tried to learn as much as I could until 2022 when we made the decision to put everything in my name, change the brand a little bit from
Hmm.
Esham Builders to Esham Builders, and have just been trying to plug forward ever since.
Man, that's awesome. So is your dad still like in the picture there, or is he stepped out and went into retirement and grandpa mode?
No
Or
retirement yet. He loves to work. It's one of the things that I love about him, have really learned from him is loving work,
yeah.
loving what you do every day. And I don't believe he'll retire. I think he's just gonna keep plugging away until he physically can't anymore.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's awesome that like he at least made that shift because I've heard of other business owners that go into it with their family, and then like the parents don't want to give up ownership, and then but then they're like, yeah, but you're gonna run everything, but I'll still own it, and it's like this whole messy thing. So that's awesome that he's done that and he still wants to be there and work and everything. I think that's something with the I mean, really, a lot of us are just wired that way, but especially the older generation that like they just can't stop. Like once they stop, like everything goes downhill. So it's awesome that he's still able to be around. But talk to me. So obviously that transition kind of happened. Your dad wanted to bring you in the business, then you took it over technically, and now are the owner of it, which is a really cool way to get into it. It's a second generation business. And then around this time as well, because you said only been married for 5 years, so you got married like right before owning the business and everything. So talk to me about that. And then obviously kids came along the way, and I want to know the ages of them too. I know you mentioned five, but what are the ages of them, of the
yeah.
kids?
So I guess I can go a little bit into how my wife and I met.
Yeah, for sure.
So the church I go to, her parents had started coming, and we had struck up a relationship, great friendship. I have two daughters from a previous relationship, and they became like their adopted grandchildren early on. And one Sunday, he came up to me and he just said, "Hey, can I introduce you to my daughter?" And I was like, "I'm not really interested in." He's like, "No, no, 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 please, just I just want you to meet her. We've become such good friends." And met her, and the rest is history. It happened pretty quickly, but so that was really cool. So we have two kids, her and I, and then we have two from a previous relationship, like I said. And the whole dynamic of bringing the families together, starting to own a business and everything was interesting for sure. But God has been so good. God has been so gracious through the whole process, and really learning how to navigate family life, marriage, business has not been easy, but it's been a blessing. It's been cool. My wife's very supportive. She loves what I do, and yeah, making it work. So
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And it says something to your character too that your now father-in-law would want to introduce you to his daughter. And oftentimes I make jokes. My father-in-law unfortunately has passed, since my wife and I dated and got married and everything. But I would joke that like he and my mother-in-law like me more than her is all the time, especially him. He'd be like, "Be good to that boy, Brooke. You need to be good to that boy. He's too good to you." Like, and she wouldn't be doing anything and just like be good to that boy. It was just so funny. So it's like he was taking my side, and you would think the father-in-law would be like, no man's ever going to be good enough for my daughter. So it says a lot about your character for sure that the father-in-law, future father-in-law is like want to introduce you, but I could see that resistance as well. But man, that's I mean, like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of change right there. Getting the business technically in your name. You hadn't really even been in it for that long, anyways. Regardless, I guess your dad's had it for many years before you went over to it, so you've kind of been around it in some way, shape, or form. Getting married, but talk to me about the why. Like, what's your why, your purpose behind the business, behind leading your family, and everything like that?
yeah, that why has significantly changed throughout the years. When my father first approached me with the idea of coming on board and learning the business and everything, my immediate thought process was, well, that sounds like a great idea because it fed my family, my as I was a child growing up, our whole lives. That's all I've ever known my dad to do. And initially I was like, yes, because that's a great way to provide for my family.
Hmm.
And God has really taught me throughout the years that that's not quite the right perspective. It's a good perspective, and I'm called to provide for my family, absolutely, but that's not the ultimate goal. And it really didn't come until end of last year, beginning of this year, where I really started to define what the ultimate goal is. And for me, now that I have a better understanding of being a business, what it means, day-to-day operations, it's about honoring God and how I build others up. You know, I want to build beautiful homes for people. Pe- Beautiful homes that people love, that people cherish, that they can build their families in. But if at the end of the day, if I haven't built up those customers to a knowledge of an understanding of who God is, and what he's done for me, and I'm not doing the same building up of our trade partners, then I have failed at the end of the day. And
Mm.
so there's been a massive transition in my philosophy in business over the last 8 to 6 months of turning that mindset to how can I build others up while building beautiful homes for people.
Man, I love that, and I completely resonate with that because that's the same thing or similar thing for us. We help people build out systems. Construction business owners build out their systems so they can get that time back with their family. Because that's the thing, like being up at 9 o'clock at night trying to send out estimates, stuff like that, and it's just you built the business so you could support your family, so you could do great things, but now the business has you constrained in it because there's always something to do. I mean, and as business owners, it's no matter what, you can find something more to do. But at least, our goal and our why is like really give those options to okay, somebody else can take care of that and everything. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be me necessarily, and really educating on that. But I love that. Why? I mean, and how has that helped? Is I mean, obviously it's only been 6 to 8 months, so it hasn't been a really long time. But how do you feel like that's helped with the clientele that you've gotten, with just the jobs and your subs that you're working with too? Like, have you seen transformations there yet?
We definitely have seen how approaching every new potential customer, new potential build, new potential trade partner through the lens of how can we help build you up in this process has helped us align better with who we want to work with on both sides. There's
Mm,
definitely trade partners we've met, prefer not to work with them again. And and I'm sure you understand too with there's some customers you prefer not to work with them. But when you align everything with how can I help them? How can I build them up in their either relationship with the Lord or even just becoming friends with them has really helped shape better relationships, better long term. I mean, some of these projects are 8 months long building a new custom home. And so you really get to know people. You really get to have a relationship with them. And when it's not just monetary, but it's working together to a better goal has really shaped and helped along the way for sure.
mm. And I can imagine that people are like seeing that change in you, and even like the people that are on your team too. Obviously your dad's there. There's probably family members involved as well, but those non-family members are seeing that, and they're really seeing that light of God in you, shining through you and everything. And I'm curious, like some of the things, because I know for me as a Christian, like I want to be able to shine that light, but not be. You'll see some of these people, and I hate to call them crazy, but maybe they're just overly passionate, perhaps, where they're like, that's like any chance they get, they're like, like, oh, amen, or oh, Jesus, like this, that, and you're like, really? Like we just talked about like doing a business transaction, and you're gonna like somehow segue Jesus into this. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I mean, it's just kind of weird to me, but
Yeah,
it is, and especially for those that aren't believers, it is very off putting. So like, how are you sprinkling that in? Sprinkling God in places where people can really see that difference.
right. Sprinkling it in. We don't have them yet, but we're putting on the back of our vehicles, kind of a bullet pointed of our mission. And then right at the bottom, we're putting, because I believe this, built to honor God. I want it to be pretty out there that that's the goal, that God would be glorified and honored in what we do and say. Now, do I run into every sales meeting throwing that in everybody's face or every project meeting? No, we don't. Internally, though, my father and I, we share very similar values. I was raised in a Christian home, going to church, Christian school. I went to a Christian college. It's been poured into me my entire life. Our project manager is a Christian, and uh, we share a lot of very similar values in that. And so internally, we're always our communication is always praise the Lord. You know, thank you, Lord. We open every morning with a word of prayer before we roll out the door to our different activities for the day. My uncle works with us, and he's a Christian as well, and so there's a real firm connection that we have. Not just because we all love to build, we all love to do construction, but we also all love the Lord, and we want to see each other build up in the Lord. And so internally, yeah, it's constant. Sprinkling it where we can with customers you have to take it lightly, and not everybody wants it shoved on them all the time, especially some trade partners. But where we can, we like to to bring it in and say a little amen or you know a quick conversation here and there helps. But we're not
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
not we're not
natural
trying to
stuff.
force
No, that's awesome, man. I'm glad, and it's really cool to see that y'all are at least doing it internally. Obviously, external, yeah, it can be off putting. And I would say, this is kind of stereotyping. The Northeast where you're at, is not like the Bible Belt where I'm at here in South Carolina. So it's definitely differences there too, right? So you got that dynamic, but it's cool. That's still cool that y'all are sprinkling that in and that y'all are going to get that I just blanked out, not logo, but message, I'll
Mission.
call it
Mhm.
mission, yeah, on y'all's trucks and everything, which is really cool. So I want to go back real quick though, because I know you mentioned about your wife. You said she was supportive of you, and obviously with the 4 kids, right? You said 4?
Yes.
Or the yeah,
Yep.
4 kids. So, and then 4 kids and everything that and then having the business, obviously the support there is huge. But talk to me about that dynamic because I think us as men, married men with kids don't talk about it enough. Like how do you build up that buy-in from her? Because I mean, I'm sure there's times where she's ready for you to like just be there and stuff, no matter what, no matter how much she supports you. But how do you make sure to like have that harmony where you are working on the business, but then you're also there for her and for the kids and everything.
Right. Yeah. Communication has been essential. I have a friend who's a business owner who gave me some advice early on of have a hard stop. Whether it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it is, have a hard stop for the day and go be with your family because they need it. They need you to be there. They need to see you as your wife needs you as her husband. Your kids need you as their father. They don't need you as a business owner all the time. And so that's been vital of yes, occasionally things pop up but from typically from around 5 o'clock until 6:37 ish, I'm 100% at home, 100%. I'm a husband, I'm a father. If after dinner, when the younger two go to bed, if I have to jump back on and do a couple things, I will, but I try to limit that as much as possible. And Sundays are 100% church and family days. I refuse to do any work on those days because I believe my family deserves to have me and the Lord deserves his time as well. And so I try to always do those things. But the dynamics definitely. If I know I'm going to have a late night, then I'm telling my wife early on that it's going to be late, and we just work through it as they come. But they're honestly few and far between at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's good that you're there where it's few and far between, and I think that's those two things are so important. Communication for sure. I think 99% of problems are all due to a lack of communication. Of course, there's still problems that are going to happen, but you mitigate a lot of those when you have those conversations up front and set those expectations. I mean, a silly example I always use is like when my wife talks about, hey, can you take out the trash? And I'm in the middle of something. I'm like, okay, cool. When I get done with this, I'll get to that. But I don't tell her. And then now she's pissed off and puts it in the garage because I didn't go immediately jump up and take out that trash. And so I could be better and say, hey, I'm going to finish this up. Give me 5 minutes and I'll take the trash out. But she also could be better too and say, hey, I really need you to take this out now, whatever her reasoning is. And then, okay, cool. Then I'll get to it or whatever. But that, that confrontation happens because we didn't have that simple communication to really establish those expectations. And it's awesome that you also had somebody tell you like set that hard stop. That's definitely something I've had to do. I'm still guilty of it because a lot of my business is on the phone too, so I still have the phone there. But trying to put that hard stop in and have that dedicated time and really blocking it out is what's really helped me be able to create that harmony too. And it's not always easy, again, especially with the internet and your phone, things
Or yeah,
happen. But yeah, setting that time, even if it's just an hour and a half or 2 hours, like it seems like so little, and it does seem like really you're going to time block for your family, but having that intentionality is so important. And is that something you did pretty early on, or like did that take you some time? I know you mentioned somebody told you about it, but like, yeah, how long did that take for you to like really figure that out?
it took a little bit of time. There was definitely a when I first started to implement it, I wasn't as strict with it, and so there would be the text of like, "Hey, why aren't you home yet?" And I'm like, "I forgot. I'm sorry. I was busy." But really just making the determination that I was gonna do it and stick with it, is what's been the biggest help with that. Yeah, things happen, you know? These are businesses. They're living organisms that are constantly changing, and so you have to adapt a little bit, but as much as I am absolutely able every single day, I'm focusing on that hard stop so that I can be there for her and for our kids.
Yeah, and how does your like? I mean, obviously, a lot of your team is your family, but how are they taking that? 'Cause I think a lot of times as business owners, we almost feel guilty too because it's like our team's still working, but we're like taking that time off. So, like, how do you handle that dynamic, or is there even a dynamic there?
There definitely is. So so early on, it was funny because one of the worst was my father, who, you know, it's
There's the
just
drama I was looking for.
yeah, right. So it's just he and my mom at home now, and he'll work pretty late, and he loves it. So he'd be 7, 8, 9 o'clock. I'm getting a text or an email like, "Hey, can you look at this?" And I'm no, like I'm getting ready to put my kids to bed. Like, no, I really need you to look at this. No, it can wait. Like,
Yeah,
and so early on, there had to be some like, hey, look, I'm happy that you want to work that late. I don't. So if it's vital, like something's burning down, sure, I'll get on a look, but most of it can wait until tomorrow. With my project manager, if he's calling, it's because he needs it. And so I'm usually quick to get on the phone with him if
hmm,
something's going on and answer a question or make sure we're set up for whatever might be happening. But I think training goes a long way in setting expectations for your team of I don't need to be the one to always make the decision. If this is your lane, you need to step up and make the decision sometimes. Sometimes it's inevitable. Sometimes there's questions that have to be answered by me, but I think a lot of times if you can get your team to buy in to their role, they're gonna end up shocking you with how much they can get done without you.
yeah, and then you taking that time like that, or even when you go to take like a week's vacation, or even just a couple of days, long weekend, whatever. When you've given empowered them to make those decisions, now they don't have to come to you, and you don't have to get bugged by those silly decisions and everything. And I mean, that's a huge rat hole, a whole rabbit hole we could go down and talk about on business side that most business owners don't ever get out of. And so I'll just go ahead and ask, like, what was that like thing to really help you do that? What are some of those steps you took to set that as the standard for your team to make those decisions without you? I think a lot of business owners do struggle with that. I mean, heck, even just dads with their families, like, make, hey, you need to make the decision on this. Like, I'm tied up with this because I'm at work still. I know you want to talk about doing something with the kids or whatever, but like, I'm good with whatever. Can you please make the decision? Obviously, that's a little bit more delicate situation,
Right.
but like, how did you go about that with your team?
It's been a process. I'll say that. I think we fall into a trap as business owners sometimes where we feel like if we're not the ones making the decisions, then we're doing something wrong. At least that's how I viewed it for a while, where I felt like I needed to be the one making the decision. Please call me. Please ask me the question. Please, if the customer has a question, have them call me. And it got to the point where I wasn't able to do anything because everybody was calling me 100% of the time, constantly. And so sitting down and start fleshing out the what is actually important for me to answer and what's not important for me to answer. And having a conversation with my PM of, hey, what decisions do you feel comfortable making? Given all the information you have, what decisions wouldn't you feel comfortable making even has been has been big. So that way we can flesh those things out and answer those questions maybe before they come up. And then project planning has really been massive on that. Of everybody needs to know what's going on before we start, and so having our internal meetings of hey, this is what's going on. Here's the specs. Here's the selections. Do you have everything you need before we start, so that you're not calling me mid project asking me, what or and even there's a lot of times where I'll get a call and I'll just ask, "Hey, did you look at the specs?" No. Go look at those, and then if you still can't find it, call me back. And a lot of times I'll get a text, "I found it, thanks." And and so I think it's a little bit of constant reminding, but then also, like you said, empowering them to make the decision. Give them
Hmm.
everything they need so that they don't need you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a scary thing to think about too. Like, okay, they don't need me anymore. What are they going to do now? But I found that with the team members that I get to buy into that mindset to do it on their own, one, they're so much easier to deal with, just like a client that, we can go down that rabbit hole, but they're much easier to deal with. But two, now that's less things I have to worry about that are on my plate. Like I still do, spot checks, check in, like with job trade, you got the daily logs that you could do to see what's going on. You could check on individual jobs, just a spot check there. We do end of day reports and everything. So like I can see what's happening with our team and everything and what they're working on. And then as they're saying stuff, maybe I can ask a question like, hey, what about this? What are you doing here? And that way I can get some feedback and everything. But then yeah, just training them up constantly to like make that decision or and I like what you said. You're basically coached up some of your project manager. Okay, hey, what would you do in this situation, and then talk with him through that about, okay, this was right but maybe you did that a little wrong, or like, hey, have you thought about it this way, and really giving them that perspective from your side of how you would make those decisions so they're able to do that later on their own. And it does take time, it is difficult at first, but do you want to spend more time up front or do you want to spend it over the whole time that they work for you? So
Yeah.
which one takes more time in the end?
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so going back to like the why behind your business and everything, like what are the next steps for y'all in the business besides just building more homes for people, sprinkling God in everywhere you can? Like, what's the next steps in the future for y'all?
That's an ever changing
I know I can ask you
process.
tomorrow; it'll be different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for us right now, it's getting to the we're pushing new homes. That's what that's the ultimate focus. So I don't know when that's actually going to happen. If we can get away from the remodels, additions, and garages and things like that, that's the ultimate goal is to move to where we're just doing new homes. I don't have that's going to happen in 5 years or 3 years or a hard deadline on those things as of right now, but that would be the ultimate goal for me is to see us consistently just doing new homes.
Man, yeah, that'd be awesome. Have you thought about asking the Job Trade Pros group on that? I mean, I know a lot of the guys have went through that transition, so I'm sure you get some great answers.
Yeah, I haven't asked anyone in there. I don't know if you're familiar with Brian Bursack, Hemlock
No.
Homes. So he's a guy I met last year in another community I'm in, and he that's what he does. He's transitioned out of remodels and fully into new construction, and so he and I have been working back and forth a lot on that and how to get there and the work it takes to do it. But yeah, there's I'm sure I know JobTrade just kind of opened up that individualized grouping on
Mhm.
Facebook. So I should definitely dive into
Yeah,
those
man,
more.
I would definitely do that, and you could join. You don't have to only be in the remodeler one, so you could be in the other one and start asking those questions, get that information up front, so as y'all are ready to make that transition. And I feel like we've talked to a few people that have like made that transition too, where they just did remodeling and then they started doing like stick build and custom homes after that and everything. So I mean, there's plenty of people in there to ask, but on the personal side, man, I want to go. So, yeah, obviously, you've been married for a few years now. You've got multiple kids and everything. What's some advice that you would give to your younger self, or that guy that's just getting started, whether it's just getting started in marriage or just getting started in business? What's some advice that you would give to them? Like, I really want you to think back to like what you wish you knew when you were starting to get into business and everything, or when you were starting to get into life and figuring everything out that would have helped you be better in your 20s?
Yeah. So I know that when I was younger, I prided myself on how busy I was. If I was crazy busy, then I felt like I was doing the right things. So I think the best advice that I could give to my younger self would be make yourself busy with the right things, not just being busy. I think a lot of times I looked at it when I welded, I operated a piece of machinery, it's a press brake. So I was bending metal all day, every day. And I prided myself on how busy I was doing that. And I didn't have anything to do with how busy I was. It was the sales guys that were selling everything, and I was just pumping out the orders as they came in. And so when I transitioned out of that, where I was working, and that was a period of time where I was working, we were working 5 12-hour days and 2 10-hour days every week. And so I worked hard every day. It was manual physical labor every single day. And I took a lot of pride in the fact that I worked that hard. And so when I transitioned into residential construction, and not even on job sites doing work, I was learning the business side of it. There was a lot of days where, you're sitting behind a computer all day. I didn't quite feel like I had enough done. I didn't feel like I was living up to my potential and how much work I could get done. So there was an internal struggle of I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. So I would just start tacking things on my plate just so I could feel like I was doing enough. And learning to say no to things that aren't important became vital because you can be really busy and not get anything done. And so learning to have that understanding of these are the things that need to get done because they're the most important, even if it's only 3 to 4 things that take much longer in process and understanding and implementing was vital. And that's what I've been really trying to focus on the last few years of what are the right things to work on, and let me just focus on those.
Man, such great advice right there. And I think this again, this is something that just I mean, I think men in general, but business owners, those in the trade space that are used to swinging the hammer, they think once they go to that office side that they're not of value there. Like, oh, I've got to get out there in the field when it's like, no, you need to be there, especially as the business owner, or if you're just in management in a construction company, like you've got to learn that setting up those systems, those processes, lining things up, putting that planning in for scheduling and stuff is the work that needs to be done so that everything else is easier. And that guy that's just doing that work, bending bending the pipe or whatever it is, that they can just do that and focus on that. But if they have to think about where's their next job, all that stuff like that, that becomes very hard for them. So the more work that you do up front in the office, setting those things up, it is value. I mean, all of them are valuable either way, but yeah, just not trying to be busy just to be busy. Definitely a huge thing, and I like that a lot. And then on the marriage side, I think that obviously we're about the same. I'm a little over 6 years into marriage and everything, so we're very young in the married years, but still for that guy that's just getting married that has the business. Is there any other advice that you would share with him?
Yeah. Tell your wife more than you think you should, honestly. There's been things that I felt like I should hide from her on the business side of struggles or, successes or whatever it may be that you feel like maybe you shouldn't put on her. And there is a level of things that your wife doesn't need to carry, but having an open relationship, communication wise with your wife, so that she knows what you're going through because she can't support you if she doesn't know what you're going through, has been has been big. There was that period of time early on where I didn't want to share because it's not her concern, it's my concern. I just need to figure it out, need to man up, work harder, whatever. She couldn't support me. She had no clue what was going on other than what I allowed her to know, which was very surface level. And so, yeah, tell your wife even the stuff that you think you shouldn't, even the stuff that you're really struggling with, because that's what she's there for. She wants to support you, and so let her.
Mm. I like it. Such great advice there. I mean, it goes back to communication, like you said, but yeah, it's hard that dynamic. How much do you share? And I agree with you. You can't only share the wins. I mean, obviously, you can't share every single like loss or hardship because that emotional side comes in from their side. Well, why do you do it then? Why don't you just go and get a job somewhere else? And it's like it's more we're getting it off our chest than necessarily, this really sucks. I'm just ready to burn it all down. Although there are those days.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely sharing that it's not all sunshine and rainbows will help a lot. And then, yeah, allows her to be able to understand when you're a little bit more grumpy, you're a little shorter on things as well, and understand some of those dynamics too. Cause I mean, if you keep just talking about all these $100,000 jobs that you get and everything like that, but you never talk about how you just lost $20,000 this week or whatever. Like she's gonna be like, "Well, why do we not have more money? Like,
Right.
what's going on here? Why are you stressed out?" Like, so you got to share some of it for sure. So I like that a lot. Well, Brent, man, I appreciate you coming on. This was awesome to have you on and just have a conversation, getting to know you a bit better and diving into the man behind the business.
I appreciate you having me.